thank you for being here, Mr. Tooley, for the workshop Education and Equality of Human Capital, organized by the IBL and Fondazione Milano for Expo 2015. So I would like to ask you some questions about your experience in education concerning developing country. So, first of all, how did your interest in education as a mean of economic development originate?
Okay, when I graduated from college as a young man, my first job was a school teacher in Zimbabwe. So my first experience is really, I wanted to leave England and go and travel the world, and so I went to Zimbabwe as a mathematics teacher. And that's really when I understood ideas about the need for education for development, and that's when some of my ideas started. Since then I've been working in education all my life, doing my PhD, working in other areas, and about a decade ago, about 10 years ago, I discovered for myself these low-cost private schools, and they seemed to me to be something really dramatic and really important, a really important way of looking again at education for development.
Okay, so what inspired you to begin the Beautiful Tree Project?
So the Beautiful Tree Project, that's the name of my book, The Beautiful Tree, and what inspired me was 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago more or less, I wanted to see what was happening in the slums of India. I was working in Hyderabad at the time in south central India. I wanted to go out there and see what was happening in the slums, in the poor areas. And so I discovered these low-cost private schools with them. And they really changed my life. From then on, I just became committed to seeing how many of these schools there were, how they were performing, what their business model was, and how we could really see these schools as being partners or a mechanism for creating education for all. But the title, The Beautiful Tree, came from something Gandhi said in 1931. And he said that before the British came to India, there was a vibrant education system. But the British came and uncovered the root of the beautiful tree, and it perished. And in my research, historical research, as well as the research I've been talking about today, in the historical research, I realized that the beautiful tree that Gandhi described was actually a system of low-cost private schools that was existing in India before the British came. And so that's why I called this project The Beautiful Tree, and that's why, in a sense, celebrating what Gandhi was saying and recognizing that Indians are recapturing what was happening before the British through these low-cost private schools.
So, okay, which kind of methodology did you apply in your project, The Beautiful Tree?
So it was a positivist, empiricist methodology. We just went out with large teams, we went out into slum areas counting schools, we sent researchers to count the schools, to count the students in them, to get data about these, and then we sent researchers to administer tests and interview schedules to the children and so on to get sufficient data. So this is purely positivist. We're saying there's a phenomenon out here, let's discover as much as we can about this phenomenon. That's what we've been doing.
Okay, so just can you share your empirical experience with us and in a few words, can you talk a little bit about the changes you saw?
So the changes, I mean, we've really seen a changing environment with these local private schools in that they are growing in number. I gave some data earlier in the talk about Kenya. In the slums that we looked at there, children in those private schools have grown by 130%. There are huge changes in the number of these schools. In a village in Bochiano in Ghana where I'm working, when I did the research originally 5 years ago, there were 6 private schools. Now there are 28 private schools in that same village. This is a phenomenon that's really changing in terms of becoming more and more important. Again, the data I gave earlier about Lagos State in Nigeria, I suggested 75% of school children were in the low-cost private schools. now people are telling me it's probably gone up to 90%. This is a hugely dynamic market. It's growing. More and more parents are getting disillusioned with government schools and sending their children to the private schools.
Okay, so if you want to say something else, you can, or that's all?
Yeah, well, I'll just conclude by stating that the work I've been doing has uncovered this phenomenon of low-cost private schools not for the elite but for the poor. These schools are outperforming the government schools. They're serving a majority of school children in the slums and poor areas, and they're a tremendous success story that can really be embraced if we're concerned about education for all.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.